Yeah, what's up, everybody? How's it going? Welcome to the show. I'm Tom McCaffrey, as always. I'm here with Eric B. Thank you for listening to LE2B. Please join our Patreon. If you join now, you get a if you give $10 or more, you'll get an LE2B hat. So some merch,
Oh,
trucker
nice.
hats, pretty cool. So and also like a free copy of my book, Born Funny, which was on the Amazon charts. So join our Patreon, give us money. Just, $5, $10, 300,000. Those are the if you get 300,000, if you go for 300,000, you get you get to hang out with us. So
do you know the name of the band who played that opening song?
Yes.
Well, then tell me the name. Tell me the name of the band.
Yes. It's just like an Abbott and Costello routine.
That's so bad. I'm sorry.
Did you? Yeah. I love that song, and I liked Yes, right? They have a couple of good songs.
That's a great album. That's like a classic album from the 80s.
Is it 5150? No, that's Van Halen.
It's 90125. I don't know why they called it that.
Oh, okay. So I was right. It was like numbers. 90210. I love that album.
No, 25. Oh, 21.
No, I know. I'm just kidding. I was saying 90210.
Maybe it was a zip code.
It probably was.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of stuff to get into. So the last week we were talking a little bit about the Menendez Brothers movie by Ryan Murphy, Monsters. And I don't think you would watch it yet, but you said you got a chance to watch it. What did you think? It was pretty funny, right? It actually was funny.
It was. I didn't finish the whole thing, but it's very campy. It's very Ryan Murphy kind of.
Yeah.
I know there's some people upset about it, obviously, because I guess he embellishes the truth.
Yeah, I guess they were complaining. I mean, those guys just seem like babies all around. They just always get upset. Like,
but then
first of all, they should be happy. I feel like it made them more sympathetic. It was the first time I ever watched it. It was like, oh, I kind of feel bad for these guys a little bit.
Because I read some more. I mean, I guess earlier on it made them look douchey, but later on it makes them look a little more sympathetic, right?
Yeah, I mean, it does paint them in a bad light, but then it gets into like, I don't know if we talked about this, but when it was happening, I kind of found like I didn't watch it, but it was like it was so in the zeitgeist and it was so in the just kind of in the pop culture landscape that you couldn't really avoid it because it was that people would parody it and they'd show clips every time. So and always showed them crying on the stand, and I feel like it was just kind of implied, it was implicit and presented in a way that like they were lying about being molested just to get out of killing the parents. And I also, for some reason, I don't know if this is like a Mandela effect thing. Do you know what the Mandela effect is?
Yeah, where they say that they didn't know. People assumed that he died in jail, but he didn't.
Well, yeah, and it's an effect where
your recall is wrong of famous.
But
events.
It's like a large sect of the population remembers the wrong thing too. It's not just you. It's like there's like something in the populace that there's like a large section of the population remembers an event happening a different way, that it didn't happen.
Right.
So a lot of people think.
What do they think? They think.
Did you pause? So the Mandela effect, it's basically this thing where a large population of people all misremember some specific fact the same way as in the wrong way.
Right.
One was that a large sector of the population believes that Nelson Mandela died in jail.
Right.
And there's one that
there's another example. Some of it's just remembering things wrong. Everyone thinks that apparently Mr. Monopoly, the guy in the Monopoly box, had a monocle, and he never did, because that was
that was
Mr. Peanut,
like Scrooge McDuck or Mr. Peanut.
Yeah.
Also, here's an interesting one. I don't know. This is one, but it's not as universal. It's not as well known, or it's not as big as. I don't know. It's not as a known one. Did you see You know the James Bond movie Moonraker? Did you ever see that? Remember
Yes.
the guy Jaws, the bad guy
Yes.
who was like huge and he had like metal
Yeah,
teeth or something?
Richard Kyle, I think his name was. He played Lurch on the Addams Family.
He did?
Yeah.
Are you
You
sure?
yeah, you rang, sir. Yeah.
I think that's wrong.
Let me see. Now I'm this might be the Mandela effect going on.
Right there, yeah. But so while you're looking it up, so Jaws was in Moonraker. Do you remember in that there's a part in that movie where, he's so huge and weird looking, he meets this like young, hot blonde girl who's like 5 feet tall. It's the complete opposite of him. So the
Right.
contrast is like stark. Do you remember that?
Yeah, also you were right about it. I don't think it was him who played
Yeah,
that.
yeah, I don't think it
Okay.
was. But so like he smiles and then she smiles. No, I think she smiles and then he smiles back. And
Right.
I looked this up. What does she have braces on? Do you remember? What?
Yes. Yes.
Are you just guessing or do you remember that?
No, I don't remember it.
Oh, okay. Well, this is a good illustration of the point. Well, I always remember when I saw that she had braces, and I thought that was why they're like she smiled. I think he smiles and then she smiles back
Oh, because
almost
he
in a
has
way
braces too, right?
because he has these metal teeth.
Right.
So it's kind of almost like a connection of like, oh, look at me, I have braces. So it's kind of like that was like their bond. But there's a YouTube video I saw about it, and she doesn't have braces, but a lot of
Uh,
people remember her having braces, including me. I saw it when I was really young, and it's not like I love that. I just remember seeing it young, and
yeah,
I
that was
always just what?
because that was a bad, I thought, James Bond movie. That was the only time they brought back like a villain for the next movie, because he was in the movie before that was very popular, Spy Who Loved Me,
Yeah, yeah.
and it
I
was
didn't
like,
really get into those. I never really. I've seen like 4 or 5 of them, but I don't like. I don't love them. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
but anyway, that was an interesting one because, and I guess it's a mental thing because the way she smiles at him seems kind of like, and I think if you look at it in a certain light, it looks like she could have braces or something. I don't know. That's a weird one.
mhm.
So anyway, so the what I got on how I got onto this was the Menendez brothers. I always like thought they were adopted too. That was another thing that
Yeah.
was
Oh, they
going on.
weren't. Yeah, they weren't. That's
Did you
right.
think that?
Yes, I did, but I forgot that I remembered that I didn't.
Did you really, or is it another
No, 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 no. I'm
like
serious.
Um, I did too, but I don't know but they weren't adopted apparently. So
Yeah.
when it was going on, I remember like I was like, first of all, they were always presented as like a punchline, like they made fun of it on SNL, and
Right.
it was always them crying and never. And I think we were talking about last time that like it was a different time, and I think the idea like people couldn't wrap their head around the fact of like sexual abuse of a parent to like homosexual pedophilia. Like I don't
Right.
think anyone wanted to like think of that as a thing that was possible,
Hmm.
and it just wasn't like prevalent in society. And I think now people are more, we've come a long way. We can now like accept homosexual pedophilia, incest, so that's one
Yeah.
positive with our society. But I think people are more willing to believe it now. But I so it was presented in that actually did happen. What do you think of that? Do you think that really happened?
I don't know. I mean, I would. What was that one part in the thing where they have to go to therapy because they're stealing something, right?
Yeah, they like
And
get caught robbing or something.
right, and that therapist is the one who gets them fucks them over, kind of because of the crazy girlfriend and stuff.
Yeah,
That is
eventually
true.
when
That's
yeah,
true. That I read about that she ratted them out because he was telling her about what was going on, and they were confessing to him.
that thing it's so funny in these stories. That's always how it happens. There's always someone in the periphery that everyone's treating that knows what's going on, and everyone treats them like shit, and finally just like shuns them and like cast them away, and then immediately they just turn on them. That's kind of always what
Right.
happens. So
But
he
the other thing
dumps
too,
her basically.
right? But the fact that they would have gotten off if one of them didn't confess to the psychiatrist. They would have gotten off. They weren't even like the main suspects. And I read about that. I go, is that true? And they're like, yeah. That's why they never checked for what on their hands. What is that?
The residue, the gun
Residue.
residue.
They didn't even look at them, which is normally the thing where it's like the family members always do it, but it's maybe this, rich privilege kind of thing where they weren't even thought of as suspects early on.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. It is weird.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I it's more. Yeah.
Well,
Have you
just
ever heard that
back to
term?
but just
What?
quick
Go ahead.
back to the psychiatrist. I don't know if this part was true, but the psychiatrist, the dad Harvey Bardem is like, I don't want to go to a psychiatrist. Just talk about the robbery. Don't talk about anything else. Remember, he said that, like he didn't
Yeah.
want him to tell about the other stuff.
Don't
So,
mention about me molesting you in the shower every day. Um, yeah, and I feel like if you're really traumatized by something like that, it might come up. But also, do you remember in the movie there's a part where they're starting therapy and they do it in a funny way where like the therapist is talking to like Eric and Lyle, and then it pans out and the parents are there too, and the parents are just like, "You're a baby," and like
yeah,
yelling at them in therapy. So I don't know if that's the environment for therapy. It's not a very comfortable. I don't think he was there the whole time, but I don't think he. I don't know. And the other thing is, I don't think you're like, even if that did happen, you're going to a therapist. There's certain things in your mind that you're probably just not comfortable sharing. You know what I mean? It's
right.
probably something that he didn't want to share. But what I think it is like, everyone wants to like break things down in like complete, totalities, like black and white, like the dad was a monster,
Mhm.
and then the kids are monsters. Like it has to be one or the other. But I feel like it's like the Rashomon effect. That's a movie. You know that thing where they would do on sitcoms that device where something would happen and then like one character would tell their side of it and then the other
Yeah,
character
yeah.
would tell their side of it and then they'd
Mhm.
show what really happened. It's kind
Right.
of in the middle. And I think this is a perfect example of I do think something was going on. I think the dad, first of all, they clearly abused them like mentally and like
Right.
emotionally. And I'm sure he hit him, but I think something happened, but I don't think it was as bad as they're saying it is.
Well, I think the thing is also is that let's say the dad was molesting them and the dad wasn't rich. I think they would just leave. You would leave it. They were adults at that point. You'd just get away, right? You
Yeah.
The killing seemed more like, hey, I'm not saying he didn't molest them, but the killing was like, we also want the money because he said he was going to cut him out of the will, blah blah blah, that whole thing.
That
If
was another thing though too, because I feel like he said that he was going to cut them out of the will, and so it almost seemed like maybe I don't know that it was just about the money, but I'm
No,
sure it was an aspect of it.
but I'm
But
saying if let's say the dad was poor, I don't know if there'd be any impetus for them to kill. You just, I mean, maybe
yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, I do think there was obviously like they snapped. I just don't I don't clearly they were crazy and fucked up, but
Mhm.
I don't think you just murder your parents just like out of nowhere
Yeah,
with them having done nothing because you want money. I don't think you're just like, you know what, I want money. Like I'm just gonna murder them. Like
yeah.
they're totally fine. But I just like first of all, isn't that it's such an insane story. The idea of like murdering your parents, like what a bad plan that is. Even if
Yeah.
you get the money, how do you get over that? You just move on.
Well, I remember the one brother's like went to the psychiatrist and he goes, "Tell me I'm a good person." He's like, "You killed your parents. I just tell me I'm a good person. You're a good person."
Um,
Like,
And then the other thing is one of them goes to like a tennis match or a tennis practice like the next day. Like there's not even like a day off. Like wouldn't you just kind of like, kind of skip tennis practice the day after you killed your parents?
you know what the thing I liked? This seemed to ring true where like they're in prison and they have access to money, but the only thing they need is dimes because that's what phones cost. And and so they have big wads of cash, but they need dimes. So they're like for 10 dimes, they're giving $100 for so they can make 10 phone calls. That seems
Yeah.
like I bet you that's true. That's just so specific.
Yeah, totally. That was really funny. There's a lot
Yeah.
of like funny detail. There were a lot of funny things in it. And it is funny because it is played for laughs a lot.
Right.
But I did the part that I think I was talking about last time that I just assumed when they got to jail that everyone just beat the shit out of them and like raped them all the time. And
Mhm.
like they kind of present jail as not being that horrible for them. Like they're just kind of like, oh, this is really, I mean, they're like, it's disgusting here. But
The one guy's
there's like,
brother seemed gay, right? And he liked the other guy.
well, Eric seems gay and they're always kind of alluding that he's gay. And then he just sort of meets this like hot like, really ripped black dude in the shower. And like you're like, oh, this is going to be like a rape thing, and they're just kind of like flirting in the shower, and then there's a scene where the black guy's like blowing him in the shower, and I'm like, wait a minute, this is jail. Just you're like the spoiled wimpy white rich kid, and the black guys are blowing you,
Yeah,
like
it's
it's,
the other
and
way.
you're gay. I just feel like I don't that didn't seem what, when I heard about prison, it seemed like it wasn't that.
I
It
was I,
wasn't that.
I read some interview of some guy who I forgot who it was, some expert. He thinks that they're going to be out by Christmas, that they're going to get released, or, or
Yeah, I was
at
reading
least get
about that.
another trial or something. So that's crazy.
Well, so you,
Hmm.
you did you watch the whole thing?
I didn't see the end, but you could tell me.
Because they get into that where the first trial, they can, it's a hung jury, because and it's kind of exactly what I was saying, and I do think it's like where the generation we grew up in, or when we
Yeah,
grew up,
and
it's
I
like,
didn't know it was a hung. So the final conviction was actually after OJ, really.
yeah, the second
Yeah,
trial, and they
yeah.
talk about it, that kind of hurt them because OJ kind of took over the cultural
Headlines. Yeah,
landscape. And so like no one was they were kind of yesterday's news, and no one was really sympathetic to them anymore. I don't know, just everyone kind of turned on them.
mm.
And but wait, what, there was something else. What was I saying before that? That they oh the so what happened was, it was like split in the first jury. All the women believed that they were abused, and
Okay.
all the men didn't believe it. And I will say, even watching it now, I was just like, I just can't wrap my head around the fact that like a grown man is like molesting his sons. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
and I know that that's good that I can't be in that mind frame, but I'm sure there is a mindset that is that someone is able to do it, because I don't understand someone who's able to just like chainsaw people's heads off. So, but
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people are like, there's no way like anyone would do it. But the other thing about the dad, I saw a documentary,
I,
and everyone hated the dad.
yeah.
Everyone he worked with, every person he
I mean,
interacted with.
Harvey R. Bardem was a good casting choice in that. He knows how to play unlikable.
Yeah, he was really good.
Yeah.
But they had a lot of witnesses too that testified, like from the family, that said that that they would see the dad go in the shower with the son
Oh God.
at some point. It's like, okay, that's a little weird. But yeah, like I said, I think obviously something happened. Do you remember what kind of brought this back into the zeitgeist? It was like TikTok, like
Oh yeah.
the Gen Z or whatever. Is that who
Yeah.
they all kind of became sympathetic to them, and they were like, I can't
Right.
believe this.
But they were sympathetic to Bin Laden. Remember a few months back?
That's true, and Hamas too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that does seem to be the trend. People, the young generation is like, what's going on? Like they're reassessing
Well,
it.
but they also like I mean Hamas at least you can make a little bit of a case for because I don't but like Bin Laden that was such a long time ago. All this is before they're born. So if you make a video that skews in one way, they're like, I guess this is what happened, you know?
Yeah,
So it's kind of dangerous, you know. I was thinking about the other day because in the debate, the vice presidential debate, fucking, I mean, Vance was lying his fucking dick off. But people should see he's doing and Trump was doing this new thing where they kept saying that they were trying to save Obamacare. They were trying to save it. And
yeah,
at least Waltz, called him out on it. But this was only 7 years ago. I mean, I remember because I was on it. I'm like, I'm gonna lose my fucking health care for this motherfucker. That's why I even tell people like why I hate Trump. I go, well, I was on Obamacare and he came into office, and his first day, that's all he wanted to do is take my health insurance
yeah.
away. And now they're rewriting history, and people are believing it.
He
So,
basically said that in the debate, like he said, yeah, that he helped save Obamacare.
mhm,
That's insane. And then also, like when he was like, we did have a peaceful transition of power. It's like,
yeah.
really, I don't remember that. But it's basically like, yeah, after January 6th, there was a peaceful transfer of power. And it's kind of like being like the Menendez brothers, like after 2 weeks after they murdered their parents, the murdering stopped. It's just
Yeah.
like, yeah, after he sent a violent mob to go almost, to kill Nancy Pelosi and and hang the vice president, Yeah, then 2 weeks later, he was like, okay, fine, I guess I'll leave. And there wasn't a transfer of power. He just left like a baby, didn't go to the ceremony, didn't
Right.
help them transition at all, which a lot of people say is kind of what might have led to like 9/11 is that transition was so wonky and
Mhm.
chaotic between um Bush and
Yeah, I heard stories
or
where like
Clinton and Bush.
right, I heard stories that when they did that transition, the intelligence teams for Clinton were like, "You got it, this Bin Laden guy. You got to watch this guy." And they're like, "No, don't worry about it. We got it." Like, "No, no, no, we this guy is fucking,
Yeah.
And they're like, "No, no, no, no,
So it's like that's not just like a nothing like what you're a baby and like sour grapes. Like I'm not going to help you. It's like no, it's actually important to like national security.
Right,
If you don't help the neck, and the whole thing is like, not only was he not helping, he was purposely trying to sabotage their administration. It's such a weird, and
right."
I know we've talked about this, and you seem more confident than me, but I don't know. I just can't believe that this is a thing still. You know what I mean? After everything,
And the funny thing is that this lack of complete, s- especially on the Republican side, of just not letting the Democrats get anything. And I'm reading the newest thing that if Kamala wins, she may keep a lot of her cabinet members from Biden, because if the Senate goes to the Republicans, they're not going to vote any of them in, which is used to be like a thing that was a courtesy that you would do. You would, to make the government function. And they're saying
right?
that they're not going to do that if the Republicans win the Senate, which means they can keep all the Biden people and they don't have to go through the confirmation. This is where we're
Right.
at now. It's crazy.
Yeah, totally. So, and it's just totally normalized. And I will say, I know that this was kind of part of the plan, and it's scary because it's like it's working. I can see it working. The numbness to everything, the whole thing. I know everyone's making the analogy for years, but it really isn't. It's true, like the slow boiling of the frog, because I do think watching that debate, first of all, I didn't know Vance was like had been on like the Yale debate team or whatever, that he was such like a skilled debater. And the normalization of him
Right.
and
Well, that was his whole purpose in the debate, was to make Trump not seem as insane and just because
exactly. So it's kind of like the whole thing was like, oh yeah, I feel like people are already at a point like, he wasn't that bad. What's the problem? What did he do really? He didn't really do anything. And then you just say these things like there was a peaceful transfer of power, and people are like, yeah, there was a peaceful
right.
transfer of power. So
How about
that's what's terrifying.
the newest thing? I mean, we can get into Jack Smith thing in a minute. I mean, all I can say about that is all that stuff was so damning, but no, that doesn't really. I wouldn't even read most of it because I'm like, it's not going to make a difference. Trump behaved horribly through the whole thing, and but no one
Yeah.
cares, not on their side. But the other big story I thought this week was, they're getting crushed on the abortion thing. So now Melania is out there saying that she's pro-choice, completely pro-choice. Makes a video of it that's weird, and it's like that's done for a signal, right? That's a signal to say, hey, his wife, she's
Like keeps
real
him in check.
keeping, yeah, the wife where he banged a porn star while she was pregnant. That wife
Right.
is going to keep him in check. I highly doubt
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
But didn't Laura Bush do that too? Like for Bush, like I feel like that's a tactic that they've used in the past, where the wife is like, "Oh, but you know what? This I don't agree with that," and
Right. But that
at
was, but
home I'm really in charge.
right. But I think but back then, but I think, with abortions, I mean, that wasn't a big deal because it wasn't overturned. But that's why I feel confident about Kamala. I really do. I think this abortion thing, I'm telling you, we've been
I,
winning all
I
these.
I guess I do too. I just like it still pisses me off that it's like close.
Oh
Like
yeah.
that's the part that's just so like not just like mind boggling. Just and I know that that's what's been happening, but like I said, it's scary when I watch the debate. The problem is it's such a dire situation with such huge like stakes, um that anytime I see any kind of a misstep or looks like some like anytime that Walls was kind of like stuttering a little bit or
Yeah.
like seemed to be not talking as well as he could have been, I just start freaking out like
I know.
immediately because I'm like, you can't miss a word. What do you do? Like it's like you have to be like perfect.
Yeah, when he said he was friends with a school shooter, that kind of went a little viral. Remember
Right.
that?
Even though I
Yeah.
knew exactly what
When
he
right.
meant. Yeah. But it's like that. Like, what do you mean? Oh, he's friends with school shooters?
Yeah. But
So
again, the VP. thing doesn't really move the needle, and it was kind of a stalemate. Maybe people, it was just good for Vance because it made him look more normal. So I
I
don't,
know, but it's just I don't know if you have, but it's so frustrating because you watch. There's so much material and there's so many possibilities to go after
right.
that you're just at home and you're just like say the thing about Obamacare, like say no, you didn't try to say you tried to get rid of Obama, you ran on getting rid of Obamacare, you want to get rid of it again, or like
Yeah,
January 6th, like
one of the moderators actually kind of gave him Waltz a layup, and he didn't fucking take it, and I was annoyed by that because they were talking about Obamacare, and he's like, Trump tried to save it, and then the moderator goes to ask a question to Waltz. He goes, so they said they tried to save it. So uh were more people on Obamacare when did the numbers go up when Trump was president? That's what she said.
yeah,
The enrollment rates, did they go up? No, they went way down because he was trying to sabotage it. But he
yeah.
didn't he didn't fucking run with that. I don't know why he didn't do
What
that.
did he end up saying? Like, I really like Vance and I agree with him. There was
I,
way too much of that.
I
Like,
think
no,
he
we're
said
not at a point of fucking you like him and
right.
you agree with him.
It was apparently that debate was to court moderate, so that was supposed the whole thing was supposed to be just calm and I don't
Yeah,
know.
I know. And I think at the end of the day, Walls is not that type. I think that, they figured out that Walls isn't going to be able to. They just were like, don't go out there and be something you're not.
Right.
Like just be yourself and like try and he did finally have that thing at the end. What was it, like 4 hours into it?
Yeah.
But like with the last 2 minutes, which I guess is good to end on the big thing, the January 6th thing. And and it doesn't really matter either because no one's really watching and everything is just clips. And when you think of any vice presidential debate you can remember. I mean, what do you remember from the Kamala Pence one? All I remember is the fly
I
and the
fly.
I'm talking. That's all I
Right.
remember. So I can't remember one
I,
other thing that was said.
I mean, as bad as this one was, the one big thing that came out of this was when Vance said, "I was told there would be no fact checking."
That was
Yeah.
really, yeah, that came off really badly. I felt,
Yeah.
and he was like, "There's no fact checking," and then he
Yeah.
kept going on, and they were like, "Yeah, all right, enough, like stop talking." And then they just turned his mic off.
Yeah, and they put shit on the screen where you could use a QR reader to say. I tried to do it. I couldn't even get it to work, but I'm like, why am I doing this? Yeah.
For what, fact checking?
Yeah, some of the channels had that.
Oh, I didn't, not on the one I saw.
Mm.
But yeah, that was nice.
You
Like
you
they
watch
said, you
you
can't fact it. The fact that you'd be like, hey, you're not allowed to like check my facts. Like that's not fair.
they
That's
compared
where
that
we are.
they compared that line that was like one of the first times Saturday Night Live ever did a debate. It was Chevy Chase playing Ford. Remember that? And they're saying all these numbers, and Chevy Chase is supposed to play Ford stupid, and so all these numbers about the budget, and he goes, "I was told there would be no math in this debate." And they
Wait, did was that just an SNL thing, or he really said it? Right?
no, that was just Chevy Chase saying that.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah,
thought that it was actually said in the debate.
no, which is pretty funny.
Yeah, but that was such a. Remember back in those days, like when the impressions, they didn't even try and like do an act. Like Chevy Chase's impression of Ford wasn't even like he didn't even try to look like Ford
No,
or sound like
his
him.
impression was Chevy Chase. You know,
Was falling, him falling.
right? Because Ford apparently fell a couple of times, which was not even that much, and he was actually an athlete. He was in good shape and stuff, but that always sticks with you. But then just Chevy Chase. I mean, there are people who really thought that he lost that election for Ford. You know,
Yeah. Um. Oh, really? People say that they blame it
very
on him.
very close election. Hey, listen, Ford wins that. You don't know if you have Reagan in '80, so you know.
Ugh, jeez.
Mhm.
So that was what else were you? So that was the thing with the debate. I mean, like, first of all, it feels like it was like 3 weeks ago. And what was it, 3 days ago?
Yeah,
And there's
I
already
think.
been like five more wars.
Yeah, I think they're going to be it. I know. I think he's going to show up to the next one.
You who?
They scheduled it for October 23rd on CNN.
Oh,
He's not.
Trump. You think Trump's going to debate?
His people don't want him to do it. But if he's a little down in the polls, and you could just that's the one thing about the one thing you can do is you could go pop, 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 chicken, kind of thing. He'll do it. He's going to be there.
Really, you think so?
I think so, and I think that'll be then. That's where you could do. You got to put the knockout blow right there.
Is that a is how late do they usually? What's like the latest they usually have them? Is
That's
that normal?
that's yeah. They've had some of that late. I mean, now people are voting already. So, but the majority of people still vote on election day. So, um,
Have
especially
you I've been watching him a little recently, like not just clips, like his actual rallies, and he first of all, I mean, I know, but like the people that they have behind him, they just look so checked out and
yeah,
bored. And I mean, I don't know how you wouldn't be, because I mean, it's just the same. He always he just says the same things, and I guess it's a thing of like, I know from doing stand up for so long, what happens is you go up there, and if you kind of get nervous or rattled or forget something, you kind of just go into your standby autopilot lines. You know what I mean? Even like it's so like muscle memory that it's like sometimes I'm saying things and I'm like not even aware of saying them. Like, oh
right,
yeah, that's something I always say, because
right.
it's just kind of something. It's such a habit, and I could see it with him. Because he always is obsessed with. First of all, he's obsessed with this McDonald's thing. Like,
Oh, the
it's such a
Kamala.
weird. Why is that his like hill to like every speech? He's like, she didn't work at McDonald's, and it's like, what? Even if that's true, which it's not, like, why is that like the big thing that you're harping on? Do you think that's really like her Achilles heel? Like,
Right.
I can't believe she said she worked at McDonald's.
Isn't it? Can't McDonald's find the records? I guess probably for years ago. Maybe it's hard to find that stuff.
But it's kind of like being like, she didn't win perfect attendance in fourth grade. That's bullshit. Why are you harping on like a job they had in high school? Um,
Yeah, I also noticed that one of his last rallies, they said only he talked for 85 minutes, which is apparently short for him because I think now he's getting everyone's saying his rallies are boring. So even when he's trying
yeah,
to
they
cut cut
really,
cut him down, it's still way too long.
yeah, it's amazing the tangents he goes off on. And then he's like, and Harris Waltz. Harris, no one even knows who Harris is. That's another big thing. He always says that. No one knows who she is. Like, what do you mean no one knows who she is? First of all, your supporters do know, because that's all you talk about.
Right.
You say her name over and over and say no one knows who she is. That's another really weird, like greatest hit now. And yeah, so anyway, like I said, and also I was watching a thing yesterday, and his it's like he's getting sloppier with the tan stuff
Really?
makeup, because you could see the line
Oh
of
my
where
God.
it's almost like it used to be orange, and like a lot of times it's like blackface almost now.
Well, maybe that's deliberate, you know. It's a dog whistle kind of thing.
He wants to be black now.
The blacks, the blacks.
um And
Yeah.
is there anything else? There are a couple others, but I don't know if you want to talk about them. Well,
Other
I was
what?
saying, so all right, so I just watched the Vince McMahon documentary, Mr.
Yeah.
McMahon. You said you watched it.
Yeah.
So I didn't really know much. Did you follow wrestling, professional wrestling?
Peripherally. I just knew some of the things. I didn't really know. I mean, Hulk Hogan really kind of built that whole league.
When you were like, I remember when I was like 10 or 11, I remember seeing it on TV. It was like when cable was kind of a new thing, USA Network would play it. And I remember like it was so kind of, it wasn't nearly what it became. And my friend like was really into it, and I remember we were watching it, and my parents had told me it was fake, and my friend was like, no, no, it's not fake. And I remember I was like, really? And I would watch, but even in like 10 or 11, like I just was like, but why do they hit each other so weird? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
But
then like
yeah,
the,
I do agree though. One thing I got of it is like they are athletes. I mean, they're jumping around. They're like even Hogan said he's like don't tell me it's not real. I've had 23 surgeries.
no, no, I
Yeah.
think it's hard. They're definitely
Right.
doing things, but it's not real. And like I remember when they would do the thing where they would throw them and then they would run and hit the side thing, whatever, the
Mhm.
ropes, and bounce off, and then they'd run back and hit the ropes, and then they'd throw their arm out and they'd fall, they'd clothesline them, and they would do it every time. And it's like, I'd be like, why are you running into the ropes every time? And then they would like for the pile driver, they would like help them get them in position. And I was
Right.
like, that's weird. Why would he help him do that?
But you see how they kind of up the ante with this, you know, it's like people get bored of those old moves, so they kept upping the ante. You see some of the shit that were do people jumping from fucking ceilings and jumping into tables and stuff like that. And you're like, holy fuck. I mean,
Well, when I was watching it, I didn't, again, peripherally, I was aware of it, but I didn't really watch it. But like when I was watching the documentary, so basically, Vince McMahon is Trump, like because Vince McMahon was the guy who created that league, the WWE, and like
mm,
became like a wrestling persona. And he admits, he said he like amped up the heel persona to be the
right.
ultimate like troll, and he got his like family involved in like weird storylines, like
His wife, he was cheating on his wife in front of her while she
his
was like,
wife like drugging his wife and like
yeah.
hooking up with the mistress in front of the wife in the wheelchair, and then like
And she was running for a fucking senator or something at one point in Connecticut. Remember that?
she was.
Yeah.
So, and then one was like a storyline he came up with was this wrestler, I think Triple H, drugging his daughter and like marrying her and having sex with her when she was passed out. I was like, what? Your dad came up with this storyline? So, and
They
then
even said
later,
the late '90s stuff was out of control. You know, they it's not like that apparently as much now. But go ahead, sir.
but it makes sense now. And then they show Trump in it, and
Yeah.
like Trump is so copying the Vince McMahon heel persona of being like the asshole brash troll rich guy, and he's like beating the shit out of Vince McMahon, and then the fans are holding up signs and they're all going crazy, and I was like, oh, now I get it. Like this whole thing with, it's like he's being that Vince McMahon heel persona,
Mhm.
but he took it into the real
Yeah.
world, and like the real world didn't know how to like deal with that, because it
Yeah.
was like, because and I
I think
and
the
I
real
and
world
I,
was like people like this, and then you find out, oh yeah, people like this.
like a lot of people, and so
Um,
like you look at the fans who are going so crazy, you're like, oh, these are those WWE shows are Trump rallies now. The exact
mhm.
same people are there, and they don't. And the whole thing where me or you or I was like, it's fake. Why are you into it? It's fake. It's the exact same attitude they have, outlook, where they're like, it's like he's lying. He lies about
Yeah.
everything. Everything he does is a fraud. And they're like, I don't care. He's like mean.
Yeah.
Like I love that he's mean and he just says mean things. And it's like,
A lot of my friends who like wrestling did say they say that wrestling is soap operas for men. You know, they like the backstories and all that shit. So I guess Trump is one big soap opera, really.
well, and and he's clearly, when you're so into something like that, I guess that is the ultimate trolling, is taking it into the real world. And but the thing
Right.
I
I
don't
mean,
understand is,
because like when they found out that he banged a porn star, while he was married to his wife who was pregnant, that could be ripped right out of a wrestling
it's
fucking.
the exact storyline,
Yeah.
like a Vince McMahon storyline. So it's
Yeah.
like there is no too far. You know what I mean? Remember, it's like, I can't believe you saying. And it's funny to see like the media back then and even now still being like, I don't know, we don't know how to cover this. And it's like, how can you cover it? He's a fucking heel wrestling persona.
Right.
There's nothing you can say to like make anyone see what's happening. So like the thing I don't understand though is like, I understand you're into entertainment, you're into sports, because I have things in entertainment that I really like, but they're really obsessed with like these like heel wrestlers running the world. And it's
Yeah.
like, I like Spider-Man, you know what I mean? But like, I don't think Spider-Man should be president,
Right.
So I don't understand how it went. Like, I can separate my entertainment from the world, like I'm not like, Spider-Man's real and he should like,
I think
kill
that,
Hillary Clinton.
yeah, I think that's why. I mean, when he first ran, he lied a lot, but we kind of took it back a little because he was changing things. Now Trump just lies constantly all the time. It's like ridiculous. That's why you said you can't even cover him anymore, because he'll just
Yeah.
say anything. I mean, he said that Biden didn't try to help the hurricane victims,
Yeah.
and people believed it.
So anyway, when I was watching this Vince McMahon thing, it was like weird how it finally, like, I was like, oh, he doesn't care. Like, it's just,
Mhm.
he was like, I'm going to be, he's playing it exactly how he did when he was in the WWE. Like, it's literally like Vince McMahon. Like, it's literally like there's a faction, 50% of the country thinks Vince McMahon should run the country for the
Right.
rest of eternity, should take over the country.
Now, at the end of that documentary, because they only interviewed him before these most recent allegations, there was a lot of things before that, but most recent allegations are like kind of Diddy level. It seems like,
Sex trafficking, big
yeah,
shock. They
yeah.
always have to traffic sex. I don't know what. It's so funny. It's just like those guys. First of all, he just looks exactly like someone who would be accused of sex trafficking.
Right.
Um, and the other thing I love is he's like, it's a persona. It's just like a character. At least he's like kind of like separating himself from, because Trump just, I think what happened with Trump is he was playing it, but I think eventually, I mean, obviously there were a lot of parallels, but like
Right.
you have to really but I think he really eventually just became that.
You started believing the lie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like there was no separate. It's kind of like it's like that stereotypical thing that happens. But yeah, Vince McMahon, like, oh, he's like, well, it's just a character I play. And it's like, no, you kind of seem like a dick all the time. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And then he said he was going to do a storyline where like he's like, this is one we were going to do, but they wouldn't let me do it. That his daughter got pregnant, and the father was him. So he was pitching a storyline where
And
he
it's his
had
actual
sex with his
daughter.
daughter,
Yeah, it's his
his
actual.
real daughter.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, they wouldn't let me do it. I was like, oh my God.
They did say some of the craziest storylines came out of the late 90s, which it makes a lot of sense because in the late 90s, you had Howard Stern. The Man Show was that big turn against PC culture where everyone was just about being shocking, shocking, shocking.
Yeah.
So when people look about it now, like, how did they get away with that back then? And now they can't because it
It
was,
is funny because,
um,
yeah, I was just going to say, you're right. That 90s culture, a lot of those people, kind of faded away because it became like it wasn't in vogue anymore. Like even Howard Stern completely changed who he was, and Dice kind of went away. But Trump was one of those 90s, icons, and he never changed. And he just brought it into the mainstream all the
right.
way. Like, and now it's like he's taking over like the country at a political party. He's taken over complete. But it does kind of make, but that's the Republican Party now to me looks like WWE storylines where
Yeah.
like the guy comes out and just beats the shit out of the senators, like Ted Cruz and Lindsey Graham, just humiliates them on like in the middle of the ring. We'll
Right.
pick up Lindsey Graham, just like punch him in the face in front of everyone. Everyone's like, yeah.
Well, you want to see some wrestling. If Trump loses, I mean, I think he'll be not running again. And then there'll be this big power vacuum, and all these guys are going to try to out Trump Trump. So the whole Republican Party is just going to be just like WWE. You're going to have every crazy senator just gunning to be crazier and saying shit to the other ones. I'm telling you, it's going
Yeah.
to happen because now the Republicans are all of them are like, even at the debates and stuff that he doesn't go up, they try to sound like the voice of reason. Cause like, hey, remember we didn't show up to any of the debates. They were saying crazy things, but they weren't acting crazy. Cause they're like,
Yeah.
if you want like a Trump light, I'm the guy. I'm Vivek.
Well, DeSantis was like everyone
Right.
thought was that's what he was going to be,
Right.
the role he was going to fill.
But wait, and when Trump's out of the picture, they know the only way you're going to get that nomination is you got to out Trump Trump. I am
Well,
telling
I
you that
think
will
Vance
happen.
is really setting the stage, like with that debate. Like he's definitely
He can,
no, you don't.
no, that guy,
Why
no,
not?
he's boring.
I
This
know he is, but I just feel like I don't
they're
know. I
they're
think
not going to go
that's
after Trump after the he's
you're
going to.
right.
Yeah, he only would say because Walt didn't tear into him. He goes into a debate in 2028, and you have like a Ted Cruz or Josh Hawley shredding
I mean,
him.
I really hope there is a debate in 2020. I feel like a lot of
Yeah.
people are just sort of this wishful thinking of like, I mean, people are kind of like making plans for 2028. I'm like, I wouldn't jump the gun just yet. I'm
Yeah.
not sure what. I
I
mean,
mean,
first of all, it's like a 50-50 race. And it's like, if he becomes president, I mean, it's just, I mean, what does that inauguration even look like? Are people just there like kind of like going through the motions of like a ceremony, and then he gets up there and he's like, I'm gonna kill everyone, and
yeah. Well, also the other thing is too is because of the Supreme Court where they kind of gave him a blank check to do anything. That might be one of the blank checks he gets. He'll be like, I'm going to ignore the Constitution, and I'm going to run for a third term, and you know,
of
and the
course.
Supreme Court could be like they'll be like completely neutered at that point, and they could say, "We don't want you to do that." And I'll go, "Well, I'm going to just do it anyway." Right.
Well, see that, but that's what I was talking about the other, like before, is that like, these things, and it's so deliberate that these norms that are broken at first, it's like what, you can't do that one, and then it's like 5 years later, everyone's like, all right, well, I guess you can do it. I mean, I don't know, like,
Yeah.
because watching that Vance debate, I did have another one of those moments. I had it during the Biden debate. I was a little more animated and jumping up and down during the Biden debate, but where I was kind of like, okay, well, I guess if he's president and Trump's president, I guess how will it really affect me? I was already it was like I was
Yeah.
getting ready to, how people kind of get ready to go to
JD Vance, the
jail,
only way JD Vance would ever become president is if Trump died while he was in office. He will
which is
never.
very possible. I mean, that's no one's afraid of that. Like, I mean, he just looks. I looking at Trump now. I mean, like, he just looks so worn out and
Yeah.
like tired. Like, how would he? What's he? I know he doesn't really do anything and he's crazy. It doesn't matter. But it's like people look at him, even if you like him, and they're like, yeah, he's gonna like have a great 4 years. Like, he
I
doesn't
mean,
look like he's gonna last four. I mean, he won't die, but he just
no,
looks like
he
he's not
won't
gonna have
die
the
because
energy.
most of these
He'll never
presidents,
die.
you ever see them and I know he only had one term, but they always look older and,
Yeah,
grayer, because the reason why they all do is, yeah, some of them are 8 years, but they're also like, they have stress about things. Even W. Bush looked fucking stressed out. It's, you take that to heart. You don't want people to hate you. Trump will never get stressed out.
yeah,
He'll get mad, but he won't get stressed. He won't be, you know,
yeah,
because he doesn't think nothing applies to him,
yeah. I
and he doesn't care about what anyone feels. He doesn't care.
Well, he's not out there like, even though it's weird. I feel like he doesn't sleep, and he is that.
Do you think Lyndon Johnson like lost his mind over Vietnam because he felt so bad he was sending the kids into war? Do you think Trump would ever feel that? Come on.
No,
Yeah.
he'd be sending his kids into the war first. Like, my first order of business, we're going to war. The only troops are Eric
Barron's
and
on
the
the
other
front
one I
line.
hate. The
Yeah.
one who's the girl that he hates? It's the daughter.
Oh, Tiffany.
I love how and now they're always like trying to sell themselves as the family party, the party of family values, and it's just like, you have a daughter you literally ignore. You're like basically like hitting on your other daughter, like basically making comments about wanting to bang her. I mean, that's just insane. Like, how is that normal? No one's like, oh, he talks about wanting to bang his daughter. That's cool. Like, that's not a depraved person. Like, someone who's saying that out loud in public, what do you think they're doing behind the scenes?
Yeah.
Do you think he really has like inclinations to like hook up with his daughter? And
Yeah,
I'm not even kidding.
well, he's called her hot enough.
Yeah. But
I
again,
mean,
it's kind of like the Eric Menendez thing. I was just kind of
yeah.
like, back then, I was like, there's no way that was happening. How could that be a thing? But now I'm like, yeah, I mean,
Yeah, and I was also thinking about Melania, like, that book, obviously it's politically calculated, but also like she's smart to get this book out before this election because if Trump loses that book, no one would fucking give a fuck about that book. This is her
yeah.
like last chance. I mean, Trump's book that will sell after he's president, but let's just hope he loses. But you're not confident about it, huh?
I mean, look, I just don't want to like sleepwalk into,
Yeah.
I don't want to go into like, well, that's it. It's, it's a done deal. I just, I remember, I have a pretty long memory of how this country is and how there's a part of me that's like, no matter what, there's just some people who are like, I just can't vote for a woman. I don't
Yeah.
know. I just don't think a woman should be president. I really feel like, and I
Well,
think a lot of women are like that.
well,
So,
some of the people who they keep saying they don't know enough about her. It's like I want to know more. I want to know if she has a penis. Like that's basically what they're saying.
yeah. I want to know if she plans to become a man.
Yeah.
Well, the whole like the whole I've talked about before, like, I don't know enough about her. It's like, luckily that we all have a device in our hand where you could find out anything in like 2 seconds.
Mhm.
I do think it's funny that like when you talk to people who don't know things now, like someone will ask me something. Like, I used to have a roommate who was kind of an idiot, and he would be like, he would ask me about things in the neighborhood. He'd be like, he'd been living there for like a month. He's like, is there a Dunkin' Donuts around here? And I'm like, first of all, I think I've already told him. It's like, just go on your fucking phone. Like, you have every answer at your disposal. Like, how do you like it? That's why it's when someone's like, I don't know this. Like, how would you not know something? Remember back in the day when like you just didn't know things and
Yeah.
you just wonder and you'd be like, I wonder like how old Tom Petty is.
Right.
I don't know. I guess I'll never know that.
Well, I'll go home and check my encyclopedia, you know. But you know,
Yeah,
the one thing is also, I mean, I do worry about the misogyny because there is a lot of that. Although I feel like maybe in this election, because of abortion, women are going to come out harder for her, which will overcome the gender gap. But there is still like the Teamsters didn't endorse anybody, right? They're a union; they should all be endorsing Democrats. But all right,
I
you
know. I
know,
don't know what that is. Yeah,
and then
but
the
I mean, I guess
firefighters union they didn't endorse anyone. They
yeah,
didn't endorse. They usually endorse the Democrat, but they didn't endorse Kamala, and then they endorsed Biden, but they didn't endorse Hillary. What's the difference there? I mean, come on. Are you so blatantly obvious with that? Oh, we just don't want the woman.
yeah, no, totally. And I think again, I just feel like people are like, I don't know. It's like ignoring. It's like what cognitive dissonance, and it's like I don't know. I feel like I know that Hillary had a lot of baggage. Like a lot of people associated her with him, and I guess I don't know. I thought she was fine, but I mean, I guess people didn't
But
like her or something. I don't, which I
the
didn't
problem is that she
get.
probably ran too late. I mean, she tried in '08, but like that's the time thing. People like, yeah, she was married to Clinton. Everyone loved fucking Clinton. Everyone loved
I
that
know. I
guy.
don't know.
They,
That was such a
he
weird
got more
thing.
popular after they found out he cheated on the woman. I mean, you could look back and say it was bad, but at the time, he was getting more
I
popular
have
after the
no
money.
idea. I didn't even know why that was baggage. I guess because
Um,
he banged someone. I don't know. Then
right.
then this other guy came along who like raped everyone, and I guess they all rape people. I don't know
Wow.
what. I don't know what's going on. They're all going to these islands and Diddy's parties. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe we can talk about it more next time. But like Diddy, I mean, I don't know what's taking so long with this case, but it's just like they keep being like they're going to release the videos. I'm like, just show the video. I want to see Justin Bieber getting railed by Diddy. Like, let's
Wow.
just get it
Let
out
me tell you
there.
something. If there are videos that they can show, there's a lot of lawyers that are doing everything they can to stop that right now. So it's not a question of just throwing that out there.
And this is a thing we can. This is just kind of another kind. This I just saw the headline like Garth Brooks was accused of rape. That almost sounds like a quaint news story now. Like, oh, really? Oh, how cute. Like, did you hear about that?
Yeah.
Did you look into it? I mean,
I mean, it was some woman who worked for him and stuff, but it's just because he's
yeah.
not really a big in the news cycle anymore. So it just seemed like
Also,
it's
like after Diddy, I just like it's like, look, you gotta bring more than that. What
yeah,
one woman complained?
right. He's got to be at least a carton of baby oil, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. Well, we'll talk about that next time.
Cool.
All right, thanks everyone. Thanks for tuning in and join our Patreon and give us money and you'll get a hat
Nice.
and a book. All right, thanks. Bye-bye.